All right, hello and welcome. My name is Sebastian Lobo-Guerrero. I work for American Geotechnical and Environmental Services. I also teach as an adjunct professor at the University of Pittsburgh. And I also serve on the board of governors of the ASCE Geo-Institute. And today we are recording an episode for the foundation series of the GI. And I want to talk about my advisor, Dr. Vallejo, and a legend at the University of Pittsburgh, and celebrate his career a little bit by doing this. I always say that I tell stories way better when I can show pictures, and that's what we're gonna do. So a week ago, exactly, we were celebrating the first Dr. Vallejo Landslide Lecture at the university. It's something that I created. It's part of my slope stability class. We do it during the semester, and I invite basically everyone from GI and everyone from the geotech industry in Pittsburgh and even abroad if they want to come. And we celebrate the legacy that Dr. Vallejo left us, and also the idea is to give a technical lecture. So last week I gave the first one. This year, since I started, I gave the first one. I shared a lot of thoughts about his life, and then I did a technical presentation. And the idea is to rotate it every year and invite a different former student. And then this way we maintain his legacy. So Dr. Vallejo was born in Colombia. He's from a place that is called Pupiales. I am from Colombia. I didn't even know where Pupiales was when I met him. That will show you the size of the town, but it's a beautiful town. He came to the States very young with different scholarships. He studied his bachelor's at Washington State University, then his master's at Michigan State, and then his PhD at University of Wisconsin. Probably that was the most important part of his education, not because the PhD, but because he met his wife Mary there, and she became a pillar in his life and a constant partner, and that really defined, his entire life. Dr. Vallejo worked in a variety of topics. I mean, he did research on, we can always go to publications, and the list goes forever and ever and ever. He did research in fractal mechanics, fractals, binary mixtures, crushing, all kind of things, and then also obviously numerous presentations. He also taught the classes of engineering geology, soil mechanics. Well, let me go in order. Soil mechanics, foundation as the undergrad level, then engineering geology, rock mechanics, slope stability, soil dynamics. He taught at the University of Pittsburgh for 40 years, and he absolutely influenced entire generations of geotech engineers in this region. I have the honor to meet him when I was very young, as you can see on the picture by my hair. Let's say that I used to have long hair, or in general, I used to have hair. And, I met him in Colombia when he was teaching a summer class. He gave me the option to come to Pittsburgh with a scholarship, and I ended up doing here my master and PhD. But one of the things that I remember the most is that when I arrived, I have all kind of issues because I arrived here, I did an English test that was called the TOEFL exam, and I absolutely suck on that test. And as a result of that, I was recommended to take 4 English classes before I could take any geotech classes. And obviously that was not going to work out. And then Dr. Vallejo helped me talking to the director of the department, and we also went to I believe it was the associate dean of engineering, and he basically convinced them that I needed to have a chance and an opportunity, and that exam was not really representing. And they gave me the chance, and when everyone put a lot of pressure on me, Dr. Vallejo at the same time was the first one to say, don't take the pressure, just do what you know how to do, just do what I met you, for, and you'll be all right. And that was the kind of person. He was always just trying to help others and trying to trust people, and he was a really good person in depth. So beyond any technical part, obviously technically he also did a lot of good work on research. He has numerous grants and numerous papers and things like that. Dr. Vallejo was the person that introduced me to ASCE, and he was the person that introduced me to the Geo-Institute. I became a member because of him many decades ago. He also taught me the importance of write papers and do presentations on your research and your work, and share, be excited about what you're doing. These are some pictures, I believe, in Boston in 2003 with Mesri, Professor Mesri and Professor Vallejo. And in the upper part is the Colombian Geotech Society, multiple professors, multiple famous figures from Colombia there. He also taught me that you needed to be still connected to the country that you're from. Many lessons. From those memories, some of the most special ones to me obviously are my graduation. We worked together with Dr. Vallejo on different topics on my master and PhD, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of papers, presentations, conference, things like that. But eventually that came to an end, and I ended up graduating. And those pictures that I show there are obviously deeply special to me. Dr. Vallejo was also the person that introduced me to pit football, and out of I don't know where. And because of him, I start watching and I start going to the games and all that. But by far the most, one of the best memories that I have is the Geo-Congress 2006 in Atlanta, when we submitted a paper and we won actually we submitted two papers, and with one of those we obtained the base paper award on numerical modeling in the analysis tract. Obviously, the award has the two names, and it's influence of pile shape and crushable behavior on granular materials with discrete element method. And it's something that is still it's like really great memory. I actually have the award right next to me as I'm speaking, and it always brings me a smile when I look at that and I think on Dr. Vallejo and all the stuff that we did. People say that you don't remember other people, right? That you don't remember other people because of what they do for you or what they tell you. That you actually remember people for what they make you feel, right? And I say that on Dr. Vallejo is different because I remember him for all of the above. He did a ton of things for me. He also gave me all the opportunities. He taught me many, many lessons that every day, every week at work at least, I think about them. But probably one of the most important too, which is part of those two, is like the way that he made me feel in the sense of trust and seeing geotech. When I met him, I was already kind of crazy about geotech and I love it, but I have very deep, serious concerns when I start taking a lot of the advanced classes and advanced modeling and things like that. And I remember thinking, I don't know if this is really what I thought geotech was, and if you really want this level of complexity. I always say that a geotech engineer is as frustrated as a structural engineer, because like we want to move away from like complicated stuff and we want to go back to principles and fundamentals. But then when I met him, I remember he kind of returned that trust on me that is like, if you trust your fundamentals, you know what you're doing, if you love your physics and your statics and all that, and then fundamentals, I guess dynamics too, but the fundamentals, that's all you need. And to me, it's amazing because with him, we worked so many years. And as you can see, my PhD ended up being in discrete element method and programming and coding and doing all kind of, models and constitutive things that I never thought I could achieve, right? But it was the strategy of little by little. If you have your fundamentals, every day you can advance and learn more and all that. And that's probably the biggest lesson that I really take from him. I mean, my biggest memory. Obviously, I learned a lot of technical stuff, but that's not what I'm here to talk today. It's just that effect he had in me, right? And that is really the main thing that I take. So as I was saying at the beginning, last week we celebrated his the first Dr. Vallejo landslide lecture. And the first part was I presented about his entire life. It was like 40 minutes on a complete biography of him and all that. And then I expressed some opinion, like give some words, and different people from the audience also attended, former students, his friends, actually the same people that you saw at the beginning, his wife Mary and his friends Fernando and Katy Chaparro. It was a very special night that I will always remember, seeing all that love that is still around, what he did. Being the day that I'm recording this, which is Thursday at 4 p.m., this is the time that I start preparing for my slope stability class. This is the class that brought me to Pittsburgh. The slope stability class on Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. It has been forever at the University of Pittsburgh, the slope stability class. And that's the class that brought me here. That's the class that I took with him. And that's the class that today I teach. And to me, it's such an honor. It's a special time of the week that I always go teach the class, try to maintain his legacy. And that's the reason I also wanted to do his lecture on that day. Definitely being an adjunct professor at the University of Pittsburgh and teaching that particular class is the highest honor that anyone could have given me. So it's a really good memory, and it's really making things special. Unfortunately, with the passing of Dr. Vallejo was very sudden in 2022. Not many people really have the opportunity to say goodbye. I was lucky enough that I was able to see him, a few days before he passed, which is an opportunity that not many of his friends had. And, I think I was not really prepared to say goodbye to him, and I was probably trying to deny what was very evident. So, I have mixed feelings on that, but I still was able to tell him a lot of things and all the appreciation that I have for what he meant to me. And he also told me a lot of great things that it was such a cool thing thinking 25 years after how everything went. And when I go back and I can focus it and say, I owe so many to this magnificent person, right? And somebody that did so much to me when he didn't really have to, right? And I think that's the message that I also want to transmit. I mean, he was always a person that believed in helping others and understanding what a mentor is and the role of a mentor. You get guided by others, you get inspired by others, and at some point in your career, you change and you become that image. And you need to have that understanding and that responsibility to really do it, right? And that's life. I mean, that's what we have at the Geo-Institute. That's what a professional society should be, right? We are all advancing together. So anyway, those are just some thoughts and a little summary from what happened one week ago in his lecture. I mean, I hope we can repeat it every year and tell the story so the new students and even his former students can celebrate all this. I hope you like the story. I hope you like the episode, and thank you very much for the opportunity to record this. Bye.